Hello, future teachers. My name is Amy Vills, and today I am presenting on an exceptionality called dyscalculia. I hope you enjoy it and find it informative. Some of you may not have heard of dyscalculia before, but I bet most of you have heard of dyslexia. Like dyslexia, dyscalculia is a specific learning disability. But rather than being related to reading, which is dyslexia, dyscalculia refers to the area of math. It is a neurological disorder that inhibits a person's ability to think mathematically, and it affects their ability to learn math skills. It has been receiving more attention in the last 20 years, but is relatively new to the research field, so the definition, diagnosis, and treatments are not quite universal at this point in time. It is, however, very promising that dyscalculia is receiving more attention because math and numbers are such a big part of everyday life, and it is essential that children learn how to be as competent as they can in math. There are two types of dyscalculia: developmental and acquired. Developmental dyscalculia is a brain-based disorder, while acquired dyscalculia is the result of some type of brain injury, like trauma or a stroke. This presentation refers to developmental dyscalculia. It is generally agreed that between 3 and 6% of the population is affected by dyscalculia. It is important to point out that this disorder deals with an arithmetic disability rather than a mathematical one. The difference is that arithmetic refers to computation and number processing, whereas mathematics encompasses other types of thinking, including abstract concepts like algebra and geometry. There is some discrepancy among researchers with regard to how specific the definition should be. One researcher points out that dyscalculia should not be the term used for general math problems, but that it is very specific to number processing. Other researchers use dyscalculia as a broader term and break it down into subcategories. For example, researchers Elizabeth and Patrick Wadlington suggest 3 subtypes which deal with memory. Semantic memory dyscalculia refers to problems with retrieval of facts. Procedural memory dyscalculia refers to difficulty understanding and applying math facts. And visuospatial memory dyscalculia refers to difficulty with spatial representation, place value, and geometry concepts. So here you can see some discrepancy among the definitions, as earlier I cautioned that dyscalculia deals with arithmetic concepts and not mathematic concepts like geometric thinking, which falls under the visuospatial memory. Overall, however, most of my research found arithmetic concepts, or numbers and number processing, to be the key to defining dyscalculia. Another suggestion for categorizing dyscalculia is into primary and secondary categories. Primary would deal with a more inherent neurological cause, whereas secondary would be more of a cause and effect manifestation due to a non-numerical issue like attention deficit disorder. It seems that a lot of different ideas about how to define this disorder are connected to the different ideas about which parts of the brain are affected by it. Many different areas of the brain have been found to be responsible for some type of mathematical processing, such as the prefrontal cortex and parts of the temporal lobe. However, it appears that one area in particular, has been agreed upon to be the place where arithmetic thinking and number processing happens, and that is the intraparietal sulcus, which is located in the parietal lobes and is shown here in red. It is the part of the brain that deals with quantity. How is dyscalculia diagnosed? First, a person must have a math impairment that is unrelated to social or environmental factors, such as their home learning environment, any anxiety they have about math, or being due to poor teaching. Also, their poor math skills should not be the result of some other learning disability like dyslexia or dysgraphia, and it should not be attributable to low IQ. Essentially, dyscalculia should be considered if an otherwise average or high achieving student struggles with math for no apparent reason. The Wisconsin Specific Learning Disabilities Rule states that a student would qualify for a special education evaluation if they have a math calculation and problem-solving deficit, and if they are not able to apply procedural knowledge computationally and mathematical knowledge conceptually. If a child scores well below what is typical of others their age and those at their grade level on a standardized test, dyscalculia should be considered. Direct observation of student behavior can be helpful as well. Things to look for include high frequency of errors, undeveloped problem-solving strategies, and problems with memory and retrieval of basic math facts. This method is the least reliable, as students without dyscalculia can display these traits as well, so direct observation should be just part of the identification process. A more specific diagnostic method was developed by Brian Butterworth, and it is called the Dyscalculia Screener. Similar screening tools have been developed as well, but they are based on the same premise, and so I will discuss Butterworth's screener here. The Dyscalculia Screener is a software program administered to children, and it involves exercises in subitizing, number comparison, and simple arithmetic. It is timed and assessed against average achieving student times. Subitizing involves quick recognition of quantity, so here, for example, are some dots, which we can easily see there are 4 of, but a dyscalculic person would have to count each dot one at a time. Number comparison exercises like this one can be difficult for students, as they may only recognize which number is physically bigger than the other without being able to tell which quantity is greater. Here is an example of a simple arithmetic problem that requires students to engage in computation. Again, the results are determined by combining a student's reaction time and accuracy, and then comparing it to the time and accuracy of average achieving students. Low scores in subitizing and low scores in number comparison, combined with the medium arithmetic achievement score, leads to a diagnosis of dyscalculia. What does dyscalculia look like? Students with dyscalculia will struggle with numbers. They will have problems with counting, and they will use inefficient strategies, such as counting with their fingers, and they may still get incorrect results. They will struggle to remember even simple math facts, and they will need much more time than others to mentally process quantity. For example, A student hearing someone say, "I have 8 apples," will need time to construct that quantity in their head. They will not be able to grasp the concept of that quantity quickly like you and I can. I hear 8 apples, and I can imagine them lined up. I know it is less than 10, and I would be able to mentally manipulate that quantity to combine it or deconstruct it to share it equally with friends, for example. Mental imagery is difficult for people with dyscalculia, especially when trying to conceive a number line or to understand place value. Unfortunately, some children will become embarrassed and frustrated by their struggles, and they may avoid math completely. This could turn into problems with behavior, and the student might begin to act out if they don't get help. It is important to realize that dyscalculia can coexist with other learning disabilities. A student with poor memory or poor hand-eye coordination should have further evaluation to identify other problems such as ADHD or dyspraxia. An example is that a student with dyslexia may have trouble reading a math word problem and so may not understand what is being asked of them. But if they also have trouble carrying out the calculation, then maybe dyscalculia is the cause, and that child would need appropriate interventions. So what can we do as teachers to help? First of all, students should feel safe in their environment, and they should know that it's okay to make mistakes. The classroom should be a very positive place so the child can build up their confidence levels. Motivating students with visuals, games, a balance of individual and group activities can help them learn in a fun way, and teachers should make sure that learning is relevant. Making content interesting and personal to the child will help them engage and increase their chances of remembering their experiences and the concepts being taught. Another important idea is that math is really like a second language. The language used should be clear and directly taught. For example, students should understand that add, plus, and combine all mean the same thing. To make the learning process as simple as it can be, teachers can write down instructions so there is less for the child to remember. They can encourage memorization using songs or rhymes, and they can allow the use of technology, such as calculators and computers. Because it takes extra time for students with dyscalculia to process information, it is important to give them that time. Teachers should be patient and provide opportunities that allow the student to work through their disability without pressure and extra stress due to time constraints. I hope you have a good understanding of dyscalculia now. It is a learning disability that affects a person's ability to grasp number concepts. It can be identified through student performance, and it can be helped. Considering how prevalent arithmetic thinking is in our society, it is easy to see that a lack of basic counting skills and solid number concepts could negatively affect a person's quality of life. As students get older, they will need to be able to maintain bank accounts, compare value when purchasing items, calculate tips for services, as well as prepare recipes and perform other daily activities. And these seemingly simple actions must be done accurately and usually quickly. As teachers, it is our responsibility to be aware of how dyscalculia manifests itself, how it affects students, and how we can help them learn to work with it so that they can function and find success in the world.